Today on Thin, Strong, Healthy, we're going to talk about depression at holiday time. I promise it won't be a total downer. I have some great ideas for you, so stay tuned. I'm Cheryl Major, and I want to welcome you to the holiday edition of Thin, Strong, Healthy. First, the disclaimer: I am not a doctor. I cannot tell you, nor will I tell you, to take or to stop taking any medication or supplements. You should always consult your health care provider before making any changes to your health care regimen. I am a certified nutrition and wellness consultant, and most importantly for our discussion today, I am a recovering, chronically depressed person. I say recovering because I know the ability to be depressed is in my gene pool. After all, I spent most of my life, my adult life, battling chronic depression. That gene pool thing is the study of epigenetics, and it's very empowering. What epigenetics tells us is very basically that we do have some control over our gene pool. But epigenetics is a subject for another program in the future. What's important for me to share today is that I've made changes that have disappeared my depression, that have gotten my depression genes under control, if you will, for more than 5 years now. If you struggle with depression, I hope you will imagine for a moment not feeling depressed, not feeling exhausted and hopeless, feeling like you have some measure of control over how you feel. I couldn't imagine that feeling before I experienced it, and my doctor had actually assured me my depression would only get worse as I got older. I am happy to tell you he was wrong. The change for me was such a transformation that in order to reach out and help others who struggle, I've written a book about what happened to me and about how I made such a miracle happen in my life. The title is Eat Your Blues Away, and I'm thrilled to tell you it's available on Amazon. One person who has already read the book told me that this book will save lives. If it saves one life, or if it helps one person to lift him or herself up from depression, feel better, and live happier, it will be worth the hours and hours of work I put into it. Honestly, it was one of those experiences where I wrote the book because I didn't know I couldn't. It was a ton of work and totally worth it. Today I want to share with you some important information about depression, and we'll focus more specially on depression at the holidays. So, who is affected by depression? Well, the answer is many people are. People you aren't even aware of are struggling with depression. Depression doesn't discriminate based on race, gender, wealth, or success. Although not occurring at the holidays, there were several notable figures who chose to end their lives this year. The designer Kate Spade, June 5, 2018, suicide by hanging. A mere 3 days later, on June 8th, Anthony Bourdain, suicide by hanging. Helen Rosner wrote about Anthony Bourdain in the New Yorker magazine and said, in a 2016 episode of Parts Unknown, which was one of his highly acclaimed TV series, he had quite a few of them, he was so successful. That was set in Buenos Aires. She said he held an on-camera therapy session and said, quote, I will find myself in an airport, for instance, and I'll order an airport hamburger. It's an insignificant thing, it's a small thing, it's a hamburger, but it's not a good one. Suddenly I look at the hamburger and I find myself in a spiral of depression that can last for days, end quote. Now, if you're not depressive, that probably sounds ridiculous to you. If you struggle with depression, you understand. Depression is insidious and it's sneaky. You can think you're having a good day and bam, that black cloud just wafts in over you and you're depressed. Ironically, the fact that it can be something that small or simple as an airport hamburger that sets you off is pretty depressing in itself. And one more. At the beginning of December of this year, Vice Admiral Scott Stearney, commander of U.S. Naval Forces Central Command, and commander of U.S. Fifth Fleet in Bahrain, was found dead of an apparent suicide. Now, there's a quote I want to read to you by Elizabeth Wurtzel in her book, Prozac Nation. I included it in my book on page 7. She wrote, "That's the thing about depression. A human being can survive almost anything as long as she sees the end in sight. But depression is so insidious and it compounds daily that it's impossible to ever see the end." And that's what she wrote, and that's what it feels like for many of us who have struggled or who continue to struggle with chronic depression. I used to feel that way, and now I want to give those of you out there who are struggling with depression hope. Hope that there is another life waiting for you. If you are extremely depressed, feeling desperate, and thinking suicide is the option to end the struggle, I want you to know there are answers. There are solutions to ease your pain and your struggle. I want to show a slide with some information, and I'll leave it up so you can write it down. We'll show it again before the end of the program. There is a hotline and a phone number here, and you can call the Samaritans statewide helpline at 877-870-4673, and wherever you are, suicide.org will get you help. There are people who can help you, and did you know? People who considered suicide but asked for help instead, when interviewed later, said they were happy they didn't ultimately choose suicide. So who else is affected by depression? Well, I can tell you from personal experience that the people we live with are greatly affected by our depression. It's not always easy to live with someone who is always down. It's hard when we're in our own heads and trying to cope with our own dark mood. But I think it's important to acknowledge those who live with us and the effect our depression has on them. So now let's talk a bit about the symptoms of depression. And again, I promise you this will not be a total bummer of a half hour. I have some good suggestions for you to help you get out of your funk coming up. What are some of the symptoms of depression? Because depression really challenges and colors your life, it can affect your emotions, your energy, your sleep patterns, mental functions, etc. The first step is to ask yourself a few questions to determine if you're dealing with any of the most common symptoms of depression. Let's talk about your emotions. While every single one of us experiences the occasional off day, prolonged feelings of sadness and despair for no apparent reason are definitely not normal. Life is admittedly not perfect, and it is an ongoing challenge. Let's face it, events happen in our lives that make us feel sad. Feeling appropriately sad is very different from depression, however. Along with feeling prolonged sadness, emotions that accompany depression may include feelings of overwhelm, hopelessness, loss of interest in things you used to enjoy, and in extreme cases, thoughts of suicide. It's important to ask yourself if you ever feel any of these emotions on a regular or ongoing basis. Your energy level can be affected. If you're feeling tired all the time or nearly all the time, it may be another clue you're dealing with depression. Constant fatigue, loss of interest, and as I said before, things you used to enjoy, and not just having the energy to be engaged and active on a regular basis are other symptoms. Your sleep can be affected. Sleeping too much or not enough may be a symptom of depression. It may seem odd, but depression can manifest as sleeping or as not being able to sleep. Either is possible as a symptom. In fact, waking up at 3 or 4 a.m. is a classic symptom, and it was one that bothered me for years. Depression can affect your weight. A change in your weight of more than 5% in a month, either gaining or losing, may be an indication that you are dealing with depression. This is of special note if you haven't been trying to gain or lose weight. Depression can affect your appetite, which I think we most often expect will be manifested as eating to try to feel better, which would result in weight gain, but it can also lead to weight loss. Some people dealing with depression shut down and lose their appetites when they're deeply depressed. Unexplained aches and pains can be another symptom of depression. Depression can actually cause physical discomfort, and it may be the answer if you're experiencing unexplained physical aches and pains. I have to say, with my depression, I didn't experience that. I got a pass on that one. I had most everything else. However, up to 75% of patients with major depressive order have experienced physical symptoms, which can include headaches, stomach pain, back pain, etc. What about thinking and concentrating? If you experience chronic difficulty thinking, concentrating, or making decisions, it may be associated with depression. Always being preoccupied with how awful you feel is a major issue. For me personally, I was so busy in my head trying to deal with my daily life that thinking about life on the outside and the real world was always a challenge. By the way, interesting factoid for you, depression is among the leading causes of disability worldwide. Now, you don't have to experience every symptom I just listed to be dealing with depression. I didn't check every one of them off on my list of complaints and challenges, but I was certain I was dealing with depression. Your gene pool may allow depression to be triggered, as it does occur in families. Remember I mentioned epigenetics earlier? Like other health challenges, just because someone in your family suffers with depression does not necessarily mean you have to live with the symptoms of depression. Research continues to show what we eat and what we are exposed to in our daily lives can turn on the genes that manifest disease. And as an aside, depression is considered a chronic disease. The trick here is to eat and live so you don't turn on those genes. Quick advice: skip the fast food or pizza and grab a salad with a small serving of protein. If you make this your go-to way to eat, you will feel better mentally and physically. You'll drop a few pounds without dieting as well. Now, when can you become depressed? Well, let's face it, the holidays, Christmas, Hanukkah, Festivus, whatever the holidays mean to you, can magnify anything wrong or not up to your expectations or dreams in your life. Although some authorities say it's not the most challenging time of the year and that statistics for some reason say that the spring brings the largest number of suicides. That being said, let's talk a bit about coping with depression at holiday time. First and foremost, it's not always the most wonderful time of the year. In fact, for many people and for a variety of reasons, coping with holiday depression can be challenging. Depression is a huge problem at any time of the year, but at holiday season, it can be particularly painful. This is the time of year when the marketing and advertising media go to work on us and tell us we should be skipping through the snow with our loved ones, getting excited over that luxury car with a big red bow on the roof, and just plain having a ball. But what if your life is not that great right now? Maybe you're dealing with illness, a relationship breakup, a death, loneliness, financial or work challenges. All these issues that may be manageable other times of the year are magnified during the holidays. Coping with holiday depression is a big problem, especially if you are comparing yourself to others and to what you think others are or have. Now, there's a quote in my book from Theodore Roosevelt, and he said, "Comparison is the thief of joy." For my own purposes, I changed that in my head to, depression is the thief of joy. Now, however you spin it, it's a great quote. If this resonates with you, and if you're struggling now, I get it. I was one of you for my entire adult life until nearly 6 years ago. I was on and off prescription antidepressants trying to manage my depression. I know what I'm talking about. I do. And I know what this time of year can mean for people struggling with depression, because I've lived it. I've referred to myself earlier as a recovering depressed person. Although I haven't lived with depression in years, I have great respect for the fact that I could become depressed again if I don't manage my gene pool to keep my depression genes turned off. Because I solve my issues by changing what I eat very carefully now. I viewed my depression as shameful, something to hide, really a disability. I've worked as a full-time residential realtor for over 25 years, And for most of that time, I was afraid no one would hire me to be their realtor if they knew I were chronically depressed, that they would be afraid I couldn't do my job well. I share this not to sound like it's all about me, but to let you know that you're not alone with your struggles if you're dealing with depression. Because I used to try to hide my depression and got very good at doing that. Many people have been extremely surprised now that I have admitted my struggles. Although I was good at hiding it, believe me, it was a lot of hard work to pull that off every single day. Now my goal is to help as many people as possible, to give others the opportunity to come back from depression, as I have done. The wider my reach, the more people I can help. We need to talk about depression more freely without fear and shame. We need to talk about it within the framework of empowerment and control by changing things in our lives that will support us. Changes that not only aid in alleviating depression, but changes that support us. Support us in general for the long run of our lives. My new book, Eat Your Blues Away, is a huge step in my outreach to others who suffer. Having put down on the pages my struggles for the world to see has been really very scary for me. It has also been very empowering. My depression is no longer my secret to hold close and hide. It is a struggle that has ended in victory, and I am bound by my wish to help others, to put my story out there. I want this to give you hope if you're struggling. There's more to come. I'm on a mission. And as you may be able to tell, I don't give up. Now, let's talk about some things you can do now to help manage holiday depression. It's important to realize there's some simple things you can do to help yourself feel better, whether it's holiday time or any other time of the year that your mood is feeling challenged. Here are my top 10. Spend time with your pet. It's been well documented that people who have pets enjoy multiple health benefits, such as lower blood pressure, improved mood, and feelings of companionship rather than loneliness. And that's not even mentioning the good you are doing by giving an innocent animal a safe, loving home. Next, spend time with some positive people and avoid the complaining drama queens in your world. We all have people in our lives who are downers. They complain constantly and they make a huge problem out of something that can be solved quietly and simply. You know, taking a break from these people is a good step toward feeling better yourself. If you can't talk sense into someone to look at the positive things in their life, fill your friend calendar with people who are more positive and who won't be so much work. Eat a healthier diet. Now, this is one of my favorites, and changing how I eat is what really helped me greatly. I go into this in greater detail than we can discuss here, and I do that in Chapter 11 of Eat Your Blues Away, and the chapter is How What You Eat Affects You. Eating healthy is not always the easiest thing to do at holiday time. I know that, and it can be a challenge for me as well. I'm not perfect with this. Believe me, I am not the food police. Some tips to stay on track are to eat something healthy before you go to a gathering or a party, so you're not starving when you get there, and then have just a small taste of a couple of dishes that may not be in your best interest to eat, but you'll enjoy them. And then I mentioned earlier that a salad with a small bit of protein is a good rule of thumb for any meal. For a holiday gathering, you'll usually find a salad, and if it's kind of a potluck thing where you can bring something, for me, I bring something I can eat, whether it's a salad or I tend to eat a lot of vegetarian meals. I'll bring a nice vegetarian dish. That way I know there's something I can eat without doing myself real harm. And then I may have a small taste of a couple of things I wouldn't ordinarily eat, and I'll enjoy them. I won't beat myself up. And the trick is not to go completely off the wagon, and if you do, forgive yourself and climb back on the healthy eating wagon. I have a client who confessed to me early on in our coaching that she would eat healthy and then she would go off the wagon and she would get so mad at herself that she would just give up and eat whatever she wanted. And I don't want you to do that. We all go off the wagon. We're not perfect. And if you do, it's not the end of the world, and you can get back on the healthy eating wagon and move forward again. Also important to remember is that while you may think alcohol will temporarily dull the emotional pain of depression, It's a depressant. Alcohol will only contribute to your feelings of depression, so keep that in mind. Next tip, exercise. Go for a walk. Now, I know from experience that if you're feeling down and depressed, it's often hard to get up off the couch. Making the effort and just doing one thing can set you on the path to feeling better. Put on your coat and just walk around the block. If it's cold outside, that bracing air, that'll wake you up. It'll make you walk faster. That's a great way to get moving and to help you feel better. Remember that exercise helps our bodies produce endorphins, the chemicals that trigger positive feelings. So get moving. Now, there's a saying that I like, dance like there's nobody watching, love like you've never been hurt. Well, I say it's a good idea to get up off the couch, put on some funky dance music, and dance like there's nobody watching. Okay, so it's raining or snowing, or you get home from work and it's already dark because now it's dark at 4:30, and you just can't go for a walk. Put on some music. Put on a golden oldie. Put on your favorite pop music and dance around your living room. I promise it will make you feel better. It's one of my favorite tips for avoiding holiday depression. And frankly, it's a great way to get some cardio going, get your heart rate up. It's a great way, with not a lot of effort, to just kind of bounce around the living room and have some fun. My next tip for you, turn off the TV. Turning off the news and those tragic melodramas, it's a good idea. If you're feeling down, it's a good idea. Instead, pick up a good book or read something on your Kindle that will inspire and motivate you. For instance, Brian Tracy and Wayne Dyer's books are always good choices. Next, try taking a break from social media. We all know you can really go down the rabbit hole with Facebook and Twitter and waste an inordinate amount of your day. Ask me how I know. If you must be on social media, I find setting a timer for 15 minutes helps keep it under control. If I don't, half an hour has gone by and I still haven't done what I went on there to do in the first place. Next, do something nice for someone and don't let them know you did it. I like this one a lot. Buy someone flowers and just have them in their office when they get into work. And don't tell them you did it. They'll be delighted and you'll get a kick out of watching them try to figure out where they came from. I've done this before and I have somebody in mind. I'm going to do this at the beginning of next week. Somebody needs a little lift and I'm just the person to do it. Next, watch a funny video or YouTube. My personal favorites for this, and I'm dating myself, I know I'm dating myself. I love the old Dean Martin roasts, Don Rickles, Phyllis Diller. You can't watch these and not crack up. Bring them up on YouTube and have a laugh. Laughter is good for you. More recently, Jim Gaffigan and his Hot Pockets. Oh, he's hysterical as well. Anything that makes you laugh is just plain good for you. Next, keep a gratitude journal. I don't think we practice gratitude often or completely enough. Being grateful for what and who we have in our lives is so important. Set aside a few minutes at the same time each day and write down some gratitude thoughts. Now, I have one more bonus tip for you. A full spectrum light. A full spectrum light is a light that approximates natural sunlight. And many people who struggle with depression find it worsens in the fall and winter when the days are shorter and darker. This is known as seasonal affective disorder, or SAD. Appropriate acronym, isn't it? Years ago, the full spectrum lights were huge banks of lights and they were extremely expensive. Today, you can get a small, even a portable light that is very, very affordable. I used one of these my last year of living with depression. It really did help me. I have a resources section in the menu bar of my website, thinstronghealthy.com, and you can see a link to one of the portable lights there. Now, I hope these tips for avoiding holiday depression help you find ways to improve your mood, both at holiday time and throughout the year. When you win over depression, your life changes. Your confidence increases. You do things you would never have considered doing. When I was chronically depressed, I never would have thought of creating a program like this, like Thin, Strong, Healthy. What happened to me wasn't magic, but it was magical. I want you to believe you can feel better. I want you to believe you can live happier. I am the proof, and I am on a mission to share the victory over depression with you and with as many people as I can possibly reach. Now I'm going to put the slide up again for the Samaritan's number and for the website. If you're feeling desperate and you feel like tomorrow is not really an option for you, I urge you to drop a dime, call the Samaritans, go visit the website. There is help for you out there. You'll be glad you did. Now, if you'd like to check out the story, here is the book I've written. And I'm going to put that up on a slide too. And don't forget my website, thinstronghealthy.com, where you'll get all kinds of information, ongoing health tips. And I will see you soon when we'll continue our journey down the road to feeling and being healthier, both mentally and physically, by talking about what foods to eat to achieve our health goals. This is Cheryl A. Major, and I want to thank you for spending time with me on Thin, Strong, Healthy, and I will see you next time.